Hello, and once again, I apologise for the delay in content. And today I've actually shot at least 3 videos, and I'm wanting to catch up with content. But recently, I've been brought to the attention. Hi there. And I've had material to focus on a real live issue that many unfortunate people have had to experience, and that is things like theft, crime, technical crime, so identity theft, and being subject to crime. Now, we all will chat to each other about safety and security, and I'm in the context of theft actually, because the minute you go outside, you're in the general public, and you could literally, meet anyone. You could be subject to anything. So if there is an individual that wants to steal something from you, and it is their intention to steal from you, they're going to steal from you. Now, it might be that you have a handbag, that handbag is zipped, and there's no way they can get into that handbag. So you have demonstrated self-awareness and self-protection, or you just don't get attacked because where you've been, there's been no criminals there wanting to steal anything. But we know that in society, crime, and again, I'm talking about theft really, because there's all sorts of crime, but theft does seem to be, it does seem to be rife actually. And I keep hearing in the newspaper, in the news channels, of people being subject to theft, that theft has increased, but also I've had conflicting thoughts that theft has also decreased. But recently, I think it was on the BBC News, there was a report that detailed that the BBC had detailed that the police in the UK had also said that lots of theft crimes are never resolved. And the percentages is really quite high, based on the fact that it's only about 5% of all crime that is theft is actually caught, which means that 95% of theft has actually gone unresolved. And the case I remember listening to was a chap had lost his car from his house. And the police had said to him there was little further that they could do. So, that's quite terrible, really. Anyway, the last 2 years we've just gone through this lockdown, and apparently that has forced and pushed a lot of criminals online. And so apparently online crime has gone up, things like when you receive a phishing email or an email that invites you to win $5,000 from Nigeria or obtain $5,000 from Nigeria, or it invites you to press a button, because you might gain something. Now, the bottom line there is what you mustn't do is if you open an email and you don't recognize the sender of that email, and that email promises you money of any kind, it promises to deliver you something of any kind, it promises you to financially gain something, and or there is a button that it invites you to press so that you can find out more information. That email you do not touch. In fact, you can put it in your junk box and delete it. That would be my general advice. Now, but also it's the telephone calls, it's the spam telephone calls. Right now, as I understand it, in the UK, for example, you're not allowed to be telephone marketed unless you've specifically asked for that telephone call. So if your phone rings and you answer it, and the person on that phone You have no idea who they are. You don't recognize the company name, or if you do recognize the company name, you still remain vigilant. But then in and amongst the conversation, they want something from you. It might be for you to call another number, or it might be for you to win some money, or it might be for you to present your financial details, or present any details about you. Now, once again, if you don't recognize that phone number and you don't recognize that caller, you definitely just put the phone down. Personally, I receive a lot of those, and I simply ask them to remove my name from their list, and I put the phone down. And when I've engaged with them, I always ask them their name, their boss's name, and the address of the organization that they're calling from. And every single time, they avoid offering any of that information. Sometimes they might offer a name, but it could be absolutely anything. And what I do find hilarious is that when I ask them where they are based, they will say that they are based in the United Kingdom, and I can actually hear from their voice that they are not British. They certainly don't sound British, and they don't sound like they're in the United Kingdom either, because the line's so crackly. And so I know it's a spam call, and I must admit I am annoyed that I receive a lot of these, and I'm annoyed that I receive so many emails that are obviously emails with bad intention. So in this video, I think one of the things I want to point out very greatly concerning emails and telephone calls is, once again, if you don't recognize the sender of the email or the caller of the telephone call, and in and amongst that conversation they are offering you something like money, or they're offering you something of value, or they are asking you to provide information about you that is personal, immediately you can consider that email or phone call is malicious and it's going to harm you. And I absolutely urge you, whatever you do, do not press any button or engage in that conversation any longer. I would mark it as junk and delete it. If it's an email or a text message or something like that, what you mustn't do is click on the link. So once again, if the email, the phone call, the text message is from a sender and you absolutely don't recognize them, they are offering you something that you don't recognize, that you haven't asked for, and they are asking you to click on a link, those are all the red herrings, those are all the signs that it is a malicious contact, and you just do not touch it. You mark it as junk, or you tell them that you think it's junk, you ask them to not call you again, and you delete the thing. Most importantly, do not click on anything, because when you click on something, you can run a program that then attacks your device, and then problems really do start. Or you click on the email link, and then from 5 spam emails a day it goes to 50. Horror stories like that. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today was how the enormity of electronic crime that everyone seems to be subject to, in particular spam calls and phishing emails and phishing calls and text messages, and we now know that all of these are basically malicious and they're just trying to get you. But then we do hear of theft of bicycles, still theft of cars. I mean, how on earth can cars be stolen today with technology that we have? But they still are. Also the theft of motorbikes, but in particular the theft of bicycles, it's just rife. Apparently everyone that you speak to in London that's owned a bicycle, they will tell you that they've had that bicycle they've had that bicycle stolen. But not just one stolen. They will tell you that they're on their 3rd or 4th bicycle. They've had them all stolen. And one of the ways they get around it is that they buy cheaper and cheaper bicycles, hoping that the thief doesn't steal them. And it's really terrible. It indicates an aspect of culture that's in decline, and it's something that does have to be addressed. But so in my experience recently, having an iPhone stolen. Now, I know at least 2 other people very well that have had their new iPhone stolen out of their hands. So literally, they've been in the general public and they've had their iPhone stolen out of their hands. On one occasion, my friend reported that they shouted, "Hey, that is my phone." And the thief actually turned around and said something like, "Ha ha ha, I've got your phone," and just simply ran off, or they might have cycled off. And what was interesting is that the police had indicated to them, like they've indicated to me, that in actual fact these thefts tend to be targeted. So the thieves are literally watching everyone, and when they notice a brand new iPhone, they will approach the person with the iPhone and they'll just take it out of your hand. So this is telling me and telling other people, what we all must do is put our iPhones in a pocket that you can lock, a pocket with a zip, or a pocket with a lock thing. Or don't pull out your smartphone, leave it in your pocket. Or don't even take out your smartphone, because the risk is there. Now, but also in conversation with various people, I've been told that these new iPhones, because they are so expensive, that itself is the incentive for a thief to actually target that iPhone and simply get it. And apparently what they can do is simply access it and erase it. And then when you erase an iPhone, it's like the iPhone is brand new. And what they really want to do is actually sell it, because it's worth a lot of money. So there's the motivation for theft of iPhones in particular. Now, the next thing is identity theft and online theft. And apparently I've been told that thieves that are really that way disposed, all they are trying to do is obtain your electronic information. So they can pretend to be you, so that they can buy stuff and extort money from your account. In effect, what they are doing is that they've obtained electronically all your information, and then they've simply used that to take money from your account and or steal things via buying them. And so that's called electronic theft. And apparently it is rife. Apparently it costs banks and companies that provide finance, it costs them massive amounts of money a year. And the more people I'm talking to, the more I'm finding out that these numbers are enormous, which means that theft is, it is a massive problem. And so what that means is that lots of people in society are actually wanting to engage in this sort of activity. So what it means is that lots of people sit at home thinking to themselves, I'm going to become an online criminal, and from my own computer screen I'm going to try and obtain as much money as I can, purely by deception. I'm going to arrange my lifestyle around stealing money electronically. So therefore I don't even have to meet anyone. I simply obtain this electrical information, and then I pretend to be somebody else, and then I steal money. And I've actually watched podcasts of ex-thieves actually talk about how they do this. And apparently it is rife, and there are organizations and groups of people that are put together that actually make this like an industry. So you can purchase credit card data, you can purchase ownership data of people, and use that then to extort money from their bank or their credit card provider or loan provider. It's absolutely terrible. And for me, that one of the biggest things I take from this is that this theft is paid for by the innocent person, because that theft ends up as an additional premium on interest rates, and the bank has to provision for it. And apparently, these statistics are enormous. I thought it might be a percent, but apparently it's way more than that. I've heard people say 30%. I've heard people say 10%. Now, I don't know, but I'm sure there are figures there. But it is quite terrible. Now, this is also on the backdrop that some people that have studied society, that have looked at psychology and society, and they've come up with the conclusion that if you look at society as a whole, 1% of that society is they're big achievers, so they're very wealthy, they're very established, they're very clever. Then at the other end, 1% of society is very criminal, very bad people. These people do very bad things. Now, not necessarily are these very wealthy people in the 1%, always good people and always not committing crime. But they're called achievers, and it tends to generally focus on their, they are wealthy, or they are film stars, or they have a public profile. But if we go back to the 1% and just use this as a rough baseline, that means that about 98% of people in society are normal, decent, clean living people. Now, that doesn't sound too bad, because that means that, most people, are decent. So therefore, you can walk outside, you can walk into society, and you basically know that on the whole you're safe. You don't really have to worry too much about crime and being subject to crime. But it still leaves the remainder 1% who are bad, who involve themselves in criminal activity. Some of that criminal activity might be theft. Other criminal activity will be antisocial and will be harm against other people. But that still leaves an awful lot of bad people out there, whose occupation is simply to hurt other people. And, how are these people born and then socialized, to create a person that simply, sits there at home thinking to themselves, right, how am I going to extort money from people today? How am I going to steal things? Unfortunately, that person exists, and it could be about 1% of society. So that means that 1 person in 100, it doesn't sound too bad. Once again, I think, I wonder how accurate these statistics are. But if you just think about it, 1 person in 100 people is simply there to steal things from you, to take money from you, and to cause you harm. That's what they're going to do. So that means that you have got a 1% chance of being harmed by this individual, in, call it 100 days. So in 1 year, you can literally expect that this 1 person that is out there, that is out there, you are going to come into contact with them, and to varying degrees they're going to attack you, which means that they're going to steal money from you or harm you in some respect. So that's my point about culture and the ramifications of that on culture. So these topics are huge once again, and I wanted to make this video mainly to talk about people's behavior online, and that what we should all be doing is safeguarding ourselves against crime. And I really wanted to say to people, look, if you're emailing, when you're online, if you receive these communications by thieves, whatever you do, don't give them your information, and don't click on any of the links that they send you, because it does just make your life more difficult. And there's a chance that they're going to remove money from you or steal something from you. So that's not a good thing. Anyway, I am getting very tired now. Hopefully I've made some content today that is of value, and I will upload it. But once again, I'm hoping to get back to content that does 3 things. Number 1 is entertaining. Number 2, my balanced opinion. And number 3, informative / educational. And I've got some interviews lined up that I think will be very interesting. I've also got some great topics lined up. And I'm trying to put more effort into how I present the content of these topics, and hopefully that's going to be interesting too. And all this is to come. But today I just wanted to say hello once again. I hope everyone is well, and I hope to speak to you all again very soon. So goodbye for now.